Eva, are we ready, do you think? Okay. All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and call to order our study session. First item on the agenda is DR 2367 Homewood Suites. And Sal, you're up.
All right, good evening, Chair and Commissioners. How are you doing tonight? The first item we have for you tonight is DR 23-67 Homewood Suites. The subject site is approximately 2.7 acres and located within an existing master site plan in Zone Business Park at the southeast corner of Val Vista and Mercy Road. The subject site is adjacent to existing medical office to the east, vacant BP zoning district to the south, and future commercial uses to the west. The site is located within the Val Vista Medical Growth Area and Vertical Development Overlay District Area 5. The subject site is located within the northeasternmost parcel within the Mercy Center Master Site Plan, and the proposed subject site will provide access to the neighboring shops to the west and the future pad located to the south. Three access points will also be provided on the site to allow for circulation amongst all the neighboring parcels. As previously mentioned, the subject site is 2.7 acres within an existing master site plan. The applicant has proposed a 5-story, 130 guest room hotel under the Homewood Suites brand, which is approximately 94,474 square feet. The building is centrally located with parking areas surrounding the hotel, designed to maximize parking access to the building. The site design follows the original plans portrayed on the approved development plan for the Mercy Center PAD due to the building's height and location, but refinements have been made to circulation and building footprint. The parking spaces north of the structure will now show a north-south orientation. Due to the new parking layout, the drive aisles north of the hotel will be developed in an east-west orientation. All other drive aisles and parking areas remain in substantial conformance with the previously approved development plan. For the Business Park Zoning District, a site is required to have 15% net landscaping, and with the proposed landscape plan, the applicant is showing 23% of the site to be landscaped. Landscaping will be evenly distributed along all property lines, within parking areas, and around the foundation of the building. The proposed landscape species are consistent with the neighboring developments to the north and east as well. The proposed material palette provided is compiled of EIFS, stucco, masonry block, composite wood slats. And the proposed color palette is consistent with developments already existing within the Mercy Medical Growth Area by utilizing the desert tones shown on the screen here. The elevations for the Homewood Suites relies primarily on a stucco finish wall system with accent materials such as EIFS, thin brick, and composite wood slats. The color palette proposed relies heavily on the desert-themed tones, which are complementary to the neighboring structures within the Val Vista Medical Growth Area. The thin brick material will be used as an accent material throughout the base of the building, while the wood posit will be placed on the corners of the structure. The accents are heavily concentrated around public-facing areas of the hotel, including the patio and entry porte cochere, which creates a clear sign of entry for the hotel users. Here we have another look at the elevations on the south and west sides, which will face Val Vista Drive and the future pad to the south. Here you can see the utilization of massing elements such as recessed walls, color change, material change, and varying roof lines to help reduce the scale of the building while also complementing the growth area. And here we just have some renderings just giving a better perspective of some of those architectural features found on the hotel. And with that, staff is just seeking general feedback for the proposed hotel here, as it is, a pretty large structure in one of our growth areas. We just wanted to ensure Commission had their eyes on it before we move forward.
All right, thanks, Sal.
Thank you.
Anybody have any comments or questions for Sal? Who would like to start? Commissioner Davis.
Oh, that's good. Thank you.
Hi, Sal. Mine's really quick. On the louvered vents for the hotel, especially where you've got the WS1, the siding material, can you make sure that those vents are painted out to match the wall color? It looked like maybe they're not on that portion of it, and I think we don't want those to stand out. And that's all I had. It's a nice project.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Commissioner Davis.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Bianchi.
Thank you, Chairman. So Sal, just a really quick question on the height. So the 70-foot height, is that covered under the vertical development overlay in this area? If it's
It
already to
is.
design review? That's what I thought, okay. And then the other one is, did staff have any concerns with the 300-foot front setback? I mean, was there any preference to kind of move it closer to Mercy Road, or does it kind of serve with the drainage and the setback from the height better to be served further setback, I guess is my question.
Commissioner Bianchi, Chair Simon, staff really hasn't had any major concerns regarding that 300-foot setback. The previously approved development plan does show the previous medical office in roughly the same general area on site, closer to that southern boundary. So when we came in with the hotel, we tried to keep a lot of these circulation patterns that are consistent with the previous development to try and keep some of that substantial conformance.
Okay, yeah, I didn't have any problems with it. I was just curious if it came up in discussions. But I think other than that, I think it's a good mix of colors and textures, and like you had pointed out, I like the variation along the roof line. So, thank you, Sal.
Awesome, thank you.
Chair.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? No? No? Commissioner Blazer? No? I just want to make sure you get on the record tonight.
Thank you. I think it's a great project. Looks good. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you, Commissioner Blazer.
Yeah, Commissioner Munt.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want to say I agree with Commissioner Blazer.
All right, thank you. Sal, I don't have any issues with this at all. I think it looks like a great project, so,
Awesome, much appreciated all. Thank you.
right, thank you. Maybe we should ask a few more questions. With that, let's go ahead and discuss our regular meeting agenda. Tonight, we have, on the consent agenda, we've got DR 22-129 District of Cooley Station, DR 23-37 Aldi Gilbert Multifamily, DR 23-16 Whataburger, S 2302 Emerald Acres, DR 23-32 Elliott Commerce Park, and S 21-02 Happy Road Estates. Is for any reason any of those need to come off of consent? All right, not seeing any, we'll maintain those. I would like to throw it out to the commission to move Z 2303 Gilbert Santan onto consent and consider UP 22-39, the self-storage facility, and DR 22-104 self-storage facility to consent, unless there's any objections to that or we have any community here who would like to speak on that.
I would concur with that, Chairman.
All right. So we'll go ahead and move item, where am I? We'll move item number 6. Wait, sorry. I got pages all over. Yeah, 12, pages, number 12, 13, and 14 will move to the consent. And then on the leaving on the non-consent, we'll have item 15 and 16. 15 is DR 23-143, Minute Express Car Wash, and 14. Along with that, DR 22-104 self-storage facility. And then, so 15, and then 16, DR 23-26 baseline commercial. And then 17 and 18, which are GP 2211 Bella Astoria, and then Z 2210 Bella Astoria. So we'll have all those on the non-consent. So with that, we'll go ahead and break. 6 o'clock, we'll come back for our regular meeting. We'll go adjourn. talk straight up. All right, Eva, are we ready?
As soon as Ashley returns to the monitor, we can begin.
We always waiting on Ashley. I will tell you what.
Okay. Chairman, we can begin. Veronica will take over.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So we will go ahead and call our regular meeting to order. And the first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would all rise if able. All right, can I get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Gage.
Present.
Commissioner Davis.
Here.
Commissioner Fay.
Present.
Commissioner Blazer.
Here.
Commissioner Bianchi.
Here.
Vice Chairman Munn.
Here?
Chairman Simon.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, with that, we'll move into the approval of the agenda. And since we went on break, we discussed moving item 12 to the consent agenda, but we do have a couple of community members who would like to speak on that, so we'll keep that on non-consent. So I will look to,
Chairman, if I may,
Yep.
we also have somebody that arrived that would like to hear item 11.
item 11. Okay, so we'll move item 11 down to non-consent. So we will have items 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, and 14 on consent. Items 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, and 18 on non-consent.
And Chairman, I just received a last-minute request, item 6 to non-consent as well.
Okay, item 6, we will move to non-consent. So on the consent, I have 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, and 14, and non-consent, I have 6, 11, 12, 15, 16, 17, and 18.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'd like to ask for clarification. Do I have to read all of those again? The actual case numbers to make my motion?
No, I believe it is in the record. I think we're good.
Okay.
Thank you.
I will move that we accept the agenda as thusly spoken.
All right, I have a motion to approve by the vice chair. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Commissioner Gage. Please cast your vote.
Aye. Oh,
Buttons, please.
All right, motion carries 7-0. With that, we will move into our agenda. So sorry, I'm looking all over here. So we've got consent. Okay, so we're going to move into the communications from citizens. At this time, members of the public may comment on matters within the jurisdiction of the town, but not on the agenda. The commission response is limited to responding to criticism, asking staff to review a matter commented upon, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda item. Do we have any communications from citizens at this time? Not hearing any. We will move on to the report from council. Councilman Anderson.
I don't have anything in particular, Mr. Chairman, unless you want to do the presentation now or later for Commissioner
Let's
Blazer.
hold that for later,
Okay,
if you're okay with that.
yep.
All right. Perfect. All right. We will move on to public hearing. All items listed below are considered public hearing consent calendar. The commission may by a single motion approve any number of these items, where after opening the public hearing, no person requests the item be removed from the consent calendar. If such a request is made, the commission shall then withdraw the item from the public hearing consent calendar for the purpose of public discussion and separate motion or action. Other items in the agenda may be added to the consent calendar and approved under a single motion. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda items number 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, and 14?
Chairman, I'd like to move to approve the consent agenda consisting of items 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, and 14, please.
Thank you. I have a motion by the Vice Chair. Do I have a second?
Second?
I have a second by Commissioner Fay. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries 7-0. We will move on to our non-consent, public non-consent agenda items. Non-consent public hearing items will be heard at an individual public hearing and will be acted upon by the commission by separate motion. During the public hearings, anyone wishing to comment in support of or in opposition of the public hearing item may do so. If you wish to comment on a public hearing item, you must fill out a public comment form indicating the item number on which you wish to be heard. Once the hearing is closed, there will be no further public comment unless requested by the member of the commission. We'll go to item number 6. Keith, we've got DR 22-129, District at Cooley Station. You are up, sir.
Chair Simon, members of the commission, good evening. So this project before you tonight, the District at Cooley Station, I had asked that this one be pulled from the consent agenda so that I could inform you of a few corrections that needed to be made to the staff report. Otherwise, I'm prepared to give a full presentation if you want it, but if not, I can just show you those corrections, minor corrections to the staff report, but it's up to you however you want me to approach it.
Unless anybody wants a full presentation, I'm okay with the amendments.
Now, Keith, we were prepared to leave this on consent before you pulled
Right.
it off, so I think
So,
you're
okay.
safe.
So I will just show you the corrections then, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. So it's at the very back. So the corrections that were needed to the staff report, very simple. One of them is these are very minor, you're probably going to laugh. So the first one is the word November. We wanted to strike that from the condition. It was September 13th, which is today's date. And then the last one was modifying the table, the site development regulations table. The height of the buildings is actually 46 feet instead of 44. We had just mismeasured, and we just wanted to make sure that that was in the table instead of 44 feet. So that is basically it. I told you they were simple, and you'd probably laugh. So I just wanted to make you aware of these modified items in the staff report.
All right. Thank you, Keith. Anybody have questions or comments for Keith on this? Yeah, Commissioner Munt.
I'd just like to point out, Keith, that you were correct. That is very funny.
So Keith, I've been in roughly this position before, and if you bring it up and nobody cares, you seem like a drama queen. If you don't bring it up and someone cares, you seem dishonest. So I'd rather be considered melodramatic than dishonest, so I would have cut it. I do agree with Commissioner Munt. Can you hear the grinding? That's my
Yes.
eyes rolling.
Yes, I can.
But I would have done it the same way you did.
All right. Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm assuming with those comments, we don't need to hear from the applicant? No? And do we have any public that wishes to speak on this? All right, so I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Thank you, Keith.
You're welcome.
Close the public hearing, bring it back up to the dais, and we are open for discussion and/or a motion, if there is one.
Chairman, not seeing any discussion, I would like to move that we approve item DR 22-129, District at Cooley Station.
I have a motion by the Vice Chair. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second by Commissioner Blazer. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Keith, for bringing that to our attention. 7-0. What did I say? I can't count. That's okay. I was looking at the number 6 when I read 7. So, all right, we'll move to item number 11, S21-02, Happy Road Estates, and Veronica.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Veronica Gonzalez, Principal Planner, here to present the preliminary plat request for Happy Road Estates, case number S21-02. The property is located south of the southeast corner of Higley Road and Santan Boulevard, and it is currently zoned Single Family 15 or SF15. The properties adjacent to the site are either vacant or have existing single-family homes on them and are also zoned SF15. The request before you tonight is approval of a preliminary plat and open space plan for a 6-lot subdivision to be known as Happy Road Estates on approximately 3.87 acres. The pre-plat proposes to divide the property into 6 single-family lots plus 4 tracts with an internal private street network. The property is zoned SF15, and all lots meet the minimum requirements of that zoning district. Included with the preliminary plat request is the landscape and open space plan. The plan includes a centrally located retention basin that doubles as an amenity area, and included in the amenities is a horseshoe pit, clustered seating, and landscaping. The development includes an 8-foot theme wall to be constructed along the Higley Road frontage. This wall will be stucco finished block with brick veneer columns, and then there will also be entry signage provided that incorporates the same materials as the theme wall with raised steel letters. Staff recommends approval of the findings of fact and of S21-02 Happy Road Estates, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report. That concludes my presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, thank you, Veronica. Any questions or comments, Veronica, at this time? No? All right, do we need to hear a presentation from the developer? Or does the developer have anything they'd like to add? Hmm? All right, and I don't have any comment cards for community members. So with that, we'll go ahead and close public hearing on this, bring it up to the dais for any comments, conversation, or a motion if there is one. All right, Veronica? Why did we pull
I
this?
was just curious why it was pulled. I thought maybe we had people to
We
speak.
had a member of the public who wanted it pulled to be heard.
Oh, okay. Thanks.
All right.
Okay, well, heard it was. I'd like to move to approve item number S21-02, Happy Road Estates.
All right, I have a motion to approve by the vice chair. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
I have a second by Commissioner Blazer. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to item number 12, Z23-03, Gilbert Santan. Nicole, I think you're on this one.
Thank you, Chair, members of the Commission. Nicole Russell, Senior Planner. The application before you this evening is being reheard due to a property posting error. This is Z2303 for Gilbert Santan. The vicinity map showing where the subject properties are located. To the north of the subject property is a developed and undeveloped RU 43 county zoning. To the east, there is also RU 43 zoning, as well as single-family 35, developed single-family homes. To the south, there is residential, which is a mixture of single-family 15 and RU 43. And to the west, there is single-family 15 Gilbert zoning. The request is to rezone approximately 30.6 acres from single-family 15 to single-family 15 with a planned area development overlay zoning district to modify the lot coverage, setbacks, and building height. Here is the nice pretty picture of the final plat that was approved last month by the town council. The PAD overlay is for reduced building height, reduced front setback, reduced side setbacks, and increased lot coverage. According to the applicant, the proposed single-story height limitation will present a development that provides a housing product that maintains unique features while also conforming with the general characteristics of the established in the Santan character area of Gilbert. Restricting homes to a single story with modified setbacks is a creative alternative to a zoning district that allows two-story homes as a matter of right. The proposed modified front and side setbacks are requested to accommodate the single-story homes. The reduced setbacks will in essence allow for more building options such as alternative home layouts, which include a side entry garage and multi-generational units with larger building footprints. There will not be any change to the rear yard setbacks of 30 feet. The increase in lot coverage would allow for a creative home footprint, as previously mentioned, which is comparable to the existing built environment, while ensuring the overall building square footage is similar to the surrounding area. Here is the development plan showing what the lot dimensions that are currently in place and what is proposed with a 10-foot side setback, as well as a 15 to 25-foot front setback to accommodate the different designs in that subdivision. The applicant had a neighborhood meeting in November, which originally had proposed two-story homes. And some of the comments from that meeting came with concerns about the two-story homes, which the applicant changed the request, and the placement of the secondary access gate on 172nd Street. Staff has received a petition of support from 8 property owners along 170th Street. Staff requests to recommend approval to the Town Council for Z2303 Gilbert Santan Planned Area Development. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
All right. Thank you, Nicole. Anybody have any questions or comments for Nicole on this? No? No. I just want to make sure that I understand correctly, Nicole. This is a self-imposed single story on all the properties?
Chair Simon, yes, that is correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Nicole. I'd like to hear anything from the developer, if you have anything to add. If you can push the button on there. Thank you. It'll turn red when it's on. No. There you go.
Thank you. I've done it once before. You'd think I'd do it right this time. My apologies. For your record, my name is Reese Anderson. My address is 1744 South Val Vista, number 217, and it's a pleasure to be with you again. We were here last month. There was all of our notice letters were correct. There was just a small typo on the sign that read 8-3 instead of 8-2. And because of that, when we were alerted by a neighbor, we then notified the staff, and here we are again to rectify what was a completely innocent and inadvertent mistake. There were no concerns at that time, but I know that some of our neighbors are here to speak about this case. So let me tell you what it is and what it's not. This is, as the chair phrased, a self-imposed restriction of single story with an increase in lot coverage so that we better fit in with the neighborhood around us. And that was brought up during the preliminary plat phase where this commission, some of you were there, approved that back in '22. So with this project today, as it sits, there are a recorded final plat that was actually recorded today. There are approved civil plans for this project, including both entrances onto Santan and 172nd Street. So the issue before you is not gates, it's not transportation, it's not streets. It really is simply this. Do single-story homes fit better in this neighborhood or not? I have a presentation with a lot of slides, but let me just tell you that we did a survey of the square mile, and of the 489 homes in the square mile, 14 are two-story that we found. So 2.8%. Our neighbors that are most affected by this are what are directly to the west, and every one of them has signed a petition of support. You have those materials. I'd like to reserve the rest of my time, Mr. Chairman, to answer any questions that may be brought up by any of our friends that are here this evening.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so I've got a couple comment cards here. We will start with Wadet Allen. You wish to speak?
My name is Wadet Allen, and I appreciate you giving us this time to speak. Do I need to give you my address as well?
Yes, please.
Okay, 3621 East Sunnydale Drive. So the issue is the gate that they are proposing on 172nd Street. I've lived there since 2009, and I can tell you that it's a safety concern. Because as of right now, without the gate, people are racing up and down that street like it's a racetrack. And if that gate is put there as an entrance and exit gate, there's just going to be more traffic coming in from Hunt Highway. And I know they're going to be expanding Hunt Highway, so that's even going to be worse. So my complaint is it's a safety issue, as well as people coming in from Santan Boulevard onto 174th, and then they make a right onto Flintlock, which will go straight into that gate. So we don't have streetlights in Breckenwood Estates. So that's an issue. When you come, like if you come at night from, Santan Boulevard and you're making a right, you make a right from 174th onto Flintlock, it's very, very dark. In fact, you have to make a very wide turn in case somebody's walking, their dog, or many times people are, walking their children, they have their children in strollers or in, wagons, and it's just not, it's not safe because there's going to be even more traffic coming in from Santan Boulevard, coming in from 174th right down Flintlock. So I'm telling you from experience, I've lived there since 2009, like I said, there's already enough traffic, and it's just going to get worse. So I do worry about our children, I worry about our pets, and that neighborhood is not made for that, coming down Flintlock or 172nd. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I have Blake Allen, and you wish to speak as well? And go ahead and please state your name and your address as well.
Blake Allen, 3621 East Sunnydale Drive, Gilbert, Arizona. Also, I'm obviously Wadet's husband. Obviously, I know the residents have gotten together. We've had a couple of meetings with both Reese and the developer. Had about maybe 50 people show up at it seems like no one is listening to anybody that lives on 172nd, Flintlock, or Sunnydale, which is the adjacent neighborhood. Copper Bend community, are you familiar with that? That's at the other end of 170th Street. That also was originally supposed to have an entrance or exit onto 172nd Street. However, 172nd Street is a 1.5 lane, no sidewalk, no street light, country road that was annexed into the town of Gilbert. The town of Gilbert has given it no consideration or money to make it more safe. And so at that time, residents got together, and it was decided that the developer decided they would just make that a crash gate, right? You know what that is? I learned what that is, okay, into the development. So that is all we're requesting for the Bella Flor development. Other than that, we love that it's one-story homes. We love that they're developing it. It's going to look a whole lot better than the way it's looked. So this is really kind of not exactly a request, but we've had the traffic department, we have Clinton Emery over to our houses to look at everything. As a matter of fact, he was out with one of my neighbors and I walking the street and he almost got ran over. So there's some problems on that street, and it will be a liability for the town of Gilbert. So we have 6 school bus stops on that street a day. And it is a dead-end street, by the way. And our neighborhood is going to be smaller than Reese's neighborhood. And there's going to be a lot more cars coming down our street, making it even less safe if this is approved. So we have no problem with a crash gate. We have no problem with, and perhaps an exit gate only. But we would prefer if it was just a development with their general gate onto Santan Road, the main road, and not onto a dead-end, 1.5 lane wide country road where we got kids riding their bicycles, equestrians, just had a horse running through there the other day, and kids and parents parked in the middle of the street, dropping off their kids for the bus stop. So if you went out there and took a look at that street, you would say, this street cannot handle any more traffic safely. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Those are all the comment cards I have from public, unless there's any others out there. Ashley, I don't think we have any more. Mr. Anderson, you'd like to come back up?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to Wadette and Blake, who I have met with several times and enjoyed our interactions. Let me go back to the refrain that I started with of what this is and what it's not. This is a project that has a approved recorded final plat. It has approved civil plans. So let me just play this out, just so, to be blunt but hopefully polite. Let's assume that you make a recommendation to the council of, "Look, we think this is a bad idea," and the council agrees with you and votes against this proposal. There's still a recorded plat with approved civil plans that show a gate. That gate was thoroughly reviewed and explored and analyzed by not only your town engineers and transportation department, but by ours. Mr. Chairman, I can go into a detailed traffic analysis as to why this is not an issue, if you'd like to be educated about it. But that's just not the issue that's in front of the commission this evening. This project, again, is the posture of this project is that it's in front of you requesting single-story homes with an increased lot coverage. The rest of it is done. I guess if I were in a courtroom setting, I would say that question's been asked and answered and resolved. But I defer to you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, if you'd like me to walk you through the traffic analysis.
Right.
Thank you.
I'm okay with it, yeah. Does anybody like to hear that?
Can I ask a
Yeah.
question or two?
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Anderson, if I understand correctly, so the gate or so you've got the entrance on Santan up in the north.
Yep.
And then you've got an entrance on Brigadier, Flintlock, kind of that alignment?
Commissioner Fay, it's at the Flintlock alignment.
Flintlock alignment, okay. And there's a gate, not a crash gate.
That's correct.
And the ask, or what the public are asking for, is that it be turned into a crash gate?
That's right.
Okay, no, oh. And if I hear, the increased traffic we're talking about is the increased traffic generated by the 40-odd parcels, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And if you'd like, I can give you the numbers in probably 30 seconds. Would you like them?
No, I've already got them.
Okay.
Okay, and Ashley, this might be you, but I'm gonna ask a question and just hang on for a second. How come we're not having this development do its half-street improvement on 172nd?
I can answer that if you'd like.
Go ahead, yeah.
So the answer is we're doing half-street improvements on the southern half of 172nd. On the northern half, that property is still in the county, and the council approved, I believe, on August 15th, an off-site deferral agreement where we paid a cash-in-lieu payment for that northern half of 172nd.
Okay, so you are essentially doing the.
We are. A long answer to say yes.
Okay, that answers all of my questions, sir.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay.
Thank you.
I think my questions were answered. I had the exact same question with regards to the street development. So unless there's anything from staff, Nicole, you have anything else? No? All right, we'll go ahead and close public hearing on this, bring it back up to the dais for discussion. We already gave you your time to speak, so, I mean, technically, usually we don't go back and forth with public, so we give you. All right, I'll give you a quick minute. I don't want to set a precedence for this, though. And please state your name again.
Yes, as far as his analysis goes.
Miss Allen? I'm
Yes.
sorry, please state your name
Oh,
again.
Wadette Allen, and my address is 3621 East Sunnydale Drive in Gilbert. Okay, so I've heard a lot about analysis and this research and everything. Well, this has to do with safety. That's more important than numbers and all that other stuff, okay? It has to do with safety of our kids, of our pets. That's the most important thing, okay? So
Okay,
I've lived there.
I'm gonna
Okay,
cut you
that's
off right
fine. I
there.
appreciate
apologize.
it.
You said that
Yes,
already, so I
yes.
appreciate you coming
Okay,
up and
thank you. I
voicing
appreciate
your
it. Thank you
concern.
so much.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back up to the dais, and I'll entertain any comments or conversation or a motion.
Chairman, I would just like, possibly for a point of discussion, for
Yeah, Vice Chair.
somebody to possibly explain to me what exactly a crash gate would do on this, if
Commissioner
anybody
Fay?
knows.
Yeah, a crash gate doesn't open and close. Basically, think of it as one that doesn't open and close. It's basically there so a fire truck can ram it. But it means that people won't be using this as an entrance and an exit most of the time. That would be the objection.
And with that being said, wouldn't it stand to reason that if you had that and people were not actually able to get in and out, that you very well could create a backup much more often than if it actually opened to let people in? I don't know. To me, it seems as though if you have a gate that doesn't open and somebody's pulling in and then having to back out because they can't actually get in, that would create more of a danger. But that's just my opinion, so.
All right. Anybody else?
So, Jan, I have a couple of thoughts.
Yeah.
Usually, we're trying to, I imagine staff is doing, as part of the strong arm negotiation, is trying to get developers to put in gates and not put in crash gates. So this one, I think the developer's already doing a little bit more from a community-wide standpoint. Additionally, I cut Mr. Anderson off, but the traffic generated by 40 households is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 trips a day. I mean, in the realm of ADTs, I would imagine Gilbert Road is somewhere in the neighborhood of 26,000 ADTs a day. This is a drop in the bucket, and most of it, I imagine, is coming out their main gate. So in terms of numbers, this is we are not talking about a lot in the way of traffic here. So when I didn't mean to cut you off, but the numbers are going to be, for 40 houses, it's going to be very small. So.
All right, anybody else have any comments? Yeah, Commissioner
Chair.
Davis.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to echo what Commissioner Fay said. In my experience, 42 lots isn't going to generate a lot of traffic. People don't come and go all at the same time, so there's not going to be a rush of that. Just practically, I think they'll really use the northern entrance versus that other one. They, once in a while, those people that live in the southeast portion of the neighborhood might use it, but I generally don't think it's going to have the impact that you might think it will have. So I think it will be fairly benign and blended.
All right. I would tend to agree. I mean, I think that from a traffic perspective, I definitely understand where Ms. Allen is coming from with regards to safety. I definitely want to give that credence, and I agree with you that there's always increased traffic, increased opportunity for incidents to happen. The developer is developing the south portion of 172nd Street. The town, it sounds like, has a plan for the north section of 172nd Street in the event that it's either annexed the, I think it's the east side of that property, or eventual conversation with Maricopa County to increase it. It does look like there is some other development with regards to a walkway or pathway there. So as much as I understand where community's coming from, I think that with regards to this particular development, I just don't see there being that much additional traffic. So I mean, I don't have an issue with this at all. So unless there's any other further discussion, I would go ahead and entertain a motion either direction. Yeah, Commissioner Gage.
Thank you, Chair. So I just want to make sure that I'm understanding. We're having this whole conversation because there was one letter wrong on the site posting. We approved this last month.
That's correct.
No, it's not.
We
There was
didn't
one
approve it.
number
It was
wrong.
pulled
Oh,
last month,
got
continued,
it.
I think, last month.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Vice Chair?
Thank you, Chairman. With that all being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve item number Z23-03, Gilbert Santan.
All right, I have a motion to approve by the Vice Chair. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I have a second by Commissioner Gage. Please cast your vote. I think we need to recast. It closed too early. Go ahead and recast, please. And that motion carries 7-0. Thank you for coming out. All right, we'll move on to item 15, DR 23-41, the 3-minute express car wash. Are we looking at these two separate? Because I think it's one case. No, 15 and 16. Am I off? I'm probably off. 15, sorry.
Yeah, Chair Simon,
It's okay.
it's just
Kristen,
the one
I
case, it's
just-
just the design review.
Look at the one once.
All right, good evening, everyone, Chair and Commission. The project I have for you tonight is the design review for the 3-minute express car wash. The project is located at the southwest corner of Gilbert and Guadalupe Roads. You can see it outlined here in red. The existing drive-through on the site will be demolished and the car wash will be built in its place. The site is zoned shopping center and is part of a master site plan. It will consist of a 4,310 square foot automated car wash structure with 17 covered vacuum bays. The drive-through entry is at the west boundary of the site and includes 3 pay stations. Each pay station includes roughly 5 stacking spaces. The car wash structure is entered from the east and includes an exit, like a bailout exit, prior to entering the car wash building. Once vehicles exit the car wash, they can choose to either access the vacuum bays to the right, or they can just leave the site altogether. Yesterday, it was brought to my attention that all of the parking spaces seen on the site plan are vacuum spaces, and there are no designated employee parking spaces that are being shown. Historically, we've not allowed the vacuum bays to count towards the required 2 parking spaces for automated car washes. So with that, staff would like to add a condition for the applicant to revise the site plan and convert 2 vacuum bays into employee parking spaces by removing the vacuums prior to permitting. The applicant sent me this proposed site plan this morning showing 2 parking spaces outlined in green that they would like to convert to the employee spaces. They're proposing to leave the spaces covered, but will remove the vacuums and put up signage specifying that this is staff parking only. The landscaping along Gilbert Road is being extended in depth to 25 feet to meet current land development code standards. The existing screen wall on the site will be relocated beyond the 25-foot setback, so it's not in the landscape setback. The applicant is proposing to keep many of the existing trees and will also be adding additional landscaping, including olive trees, elm trees, Mexican bird of paradise, oleander, lantana, and a few other species. Right, here are the elevations. The building varies in height from 17 feet at the lower parapet to about 32 foot 3 inches to the top of the tower. It consists primarily of neutral colored stucco with stone accents around the base and also has column elements on the longest elevations. The tower includes a diamond score pattern to provide some visual interest, and there are also a number of dark bronze metal canopies along the elevations as well. The colors and materials are compatible with all of the other buildings in the center. Right, here is the floor plan. There is a public restroom, staff restroom, 2 offices, the car wash tunnel, and an equipment room. All right, and then this here, as mentioned earlier, is the condition that we would like to add tonight. That condition reads, prior to approval of any construction permits, applicant shall revise site plan to convert 2 vacuum bays into 2 employee parking spaces by removing the vacuums. All right, and with that, staff recommends approval of DR 2341, the 3-minute express car wash, subject to the conditions mentioned. Available for any questions if you have them.
Right, yep. Commissioner Gage.
Thank you, Chair. Is it possible to have those 2 employee parking spaces next to each other instead of on opposite sides and opposite ends? Doesn't it make sense that they would be together?
So Chair Simon, Commissioner Gage, that's definitely something we can explore. This is just, I mentioned it to them yesterday that we needed the 2 required spaces, and this is what they came back with as their proposal. So if you would like them relocated, we can explore that and maybe just approve it administratively.
Okay, I think it just makes more sense to have them together, especially if you're going to put signage up. It's kind of confusing, but that's fine. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? No. Commissioner Vice Chair.
And this isn't to be anti towards Commissioner Gage, but I would almost argue that because the one on the top right is a singular one, that in fact, putting that completely alone would erase any confusion and then putting it on the far side. So I understand, but I would just wanted to point out that I actually think it makes sense.
Thanks you. I did think of that, but then it was weird why you would put a vacuum in that single space anyways.
Right, great.
So, I don't know, but I'm fine either way. He makes a fair point, so.
Right. Any other questions or comments? Not seeing any. Would the applicant like to come up? Is there anything the applicant would like to add? Are we good?
There we go. My name's James Dam, the architect. I would answer any questions you might have. I would just say regarding the parking, it could be almost any place, but when we talked this morning and I looked at it, the single off there in the northeast is like an expensive way to run vacuum lines too. It didn't make sense. So, and it's only there because we needed the parking and we had to line driveways to the north. So either way.
All right, fair enough. Any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Fay?
Not exactly a question, but I would take you've heard 2 people talk about where the parking should be. I'll take a third position that I don't think we should care. It's your business. Put them wherever you want to as long as there's 2.
All right. Anybody else? Commissioner Bianchi.
Thank you, Chairman. My general curiosity whenever I see these car washes is, and I kind of posed it to staff, but it's probably more appropriate for you. When you're laying these out, why do we have the noisy, I would assume the noisiest end is where the dryers and the blowers are as they come out. Why do we orientate it? Oh, how come we're not orientating that back towards Gilbert Road and traffic, and we're orientated that noisy side to the adjacent uses and the residential over there?
It's kind of the ugly end towards the street. So in this, depending on the site and in this case, we don't really have residential areas next to it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I'll have residences next or close by, and I'm being more, concerned about them than I am whatever. But in this case, it was more or less, it's facing the road. It would be sort of the ugly end and.
So it's an aesthetics issue, yeah, I know, and
Yeah.
some of them I know they extend the building out a little bit and kind of dampen the noise with the walls or put retaining walls in, but that's always curious when I look at these site layouts, so, okay, so it's from an aesthetics point. Do we know roughly what that noise level is at that exit point? I don't think it's probably going to be an impact to any of the adjacent users, but that's always a consideration when I see car washes going in.
Yeah, I mean, the noisiest end is that west end of this building, but it dissipates fairly quickly as you get into the parking lot. And that was the other thing, is that mostly it's just parking there, so, you know, it'll probably, the westmost buildings, it'll be insignificant, really. Now, if you're parked on that east end of that parking lot from where I guess Albertsons was at one time, it was just, it'll be noisy.
Yeah, I know it's zoned commercial, but if there's
One of the
any-
things we tried to do is to turn the exit north onto the site with the idea that we could do sound control while there. But there were some comments that we received from planning, and it didn't work out.
Okay.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? No? All right, thank you. I don't have any comment cards from community members, so we will close the public hearing at this time, bring it back up to the dais for discussion or a motion.
Seeing no discussion, Chairman, I would move that we approve item DR 23-41, 3-minute express car wash, contingent upon the stipulations discussed and credence given to my opinion of the, okay, that part we can strike, I'm kidding.
All right, we have a motion to approve by the vice chair, including the amendment, and I'm sorry, my mind just went blank on the words. I have motion approved, Vice Chair.
I'll second that.
I have a second by Commissioner Blazer. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries 7-0. All right, moving on. Item 16, we've got DR 23-26 baseline commercial, and Sal, you are up.
All right. Hello again, Chairman and Commissioners. The project we'll be taking a look at next is DR 23-26 baseline commercial. The subject site outlined in blue is an approximately 2.8 acre parcel located within the overall 11.82 acre Joe Porter planned area development, which is located at the southwest corner of Lindsay and Baseline Roads. The parcel is zoned general commercial with a planned area development, and all proposed uses are permitted within the GC zoning district and meet the intention of the Joe Porter PAD. The proposed master site plan provides 3 pads for commercial use, including a drive-through restaurant, a express oil change facility, and 1 proposed retail building along the west property line. All proposed buildings are designed in a north-south orientation, focusing the prominent elevations towards Baseline Road. Access to the site is provided from 2 access points off of Baseline Road. 1 access point is already constructed in the northeast corner of the site, and 1 access point is proposed to be centralized on site, roughly 207 feet away from the existing access point. The existing access point in the northwest corner of the site will still be maintained, as it is utilized for a sewer lift station access only. Parking on site will be located along both north and south property lines, as well as centralized parking near all proposed pad sites. As for screening, an 8-foot perimeter split-face CMU wall will be utilized along the southern property line to mitigate any potential visibilities into the neighboring residential uses. During last month's study session, Planning Commission provided a few site plan comments. The first comment that was provided was the potential relocation of the access point along Baseline Road. The provided access point has been approved by City of Mesa, as the Baseline Road is within their jurisdiction. The plan for that access point was to have it centrally located on site, as well as providing alignment with the existing commercial on the north side of Baseline Road. The other comment provided by Planning Commission was the potential shift in the interior drive aisle to mitigate any potential circulation issues. Planning staff and the applicant looked at other options, but ultimately determined that the current location was best suited given the City of Mesa's approval of baseline access and site spacing. As for processing, a future amendment will need to be submitted to town staff for review, as we are working through some distancing issues with the oil facility roll-up doors in the neighboring residential to the south. An updated condition will be presented to you all tonight, reflecting this. As for landscaping, the site provides 35% landscape coverage, which exceeds the minimum requirement of 15% in the zoning district. The landscape plan proposes a varied plant palette of drought-tolerant trees and shrubs. And one thing to mention, if you remember from our previous discussion, along the western property line, there is an existing SRP easement, which does eliminate the side building setback, but all landscape quantities will be met along that western boundary. As we move on to elevations and colors and materials, we have pad A here, which is the proposed express oil change facility that will be roughly 22 feet tall, with flat roof lines and massing elements accented through variations of multiple colors and materials. The main exterior wall material will be constructed of split-face CMU in the gray color, and the color palette is to be neutral gray with accent colors such as walnut and rail red. The roll-up doors will be utilized on both the north and south elevations. The northern roll-up doors provide transparency and will be accented with an aluminum system colored dark bronze, and the roll-up doors located on the south are proposed to be solid, which were specifically chosen by the applicant to mitigate any visual impacts to the neighboring residential. And just to note that all mechanical equipment and associated roof-mounted equipment will be screened from public view. As we move on to pad B, which is our Andy's Frozen Custard here, the overall height is roughly 25 feet 9 inches to the tallest point and roughly 12 feet 8 inches to the top of the roof line. The building utilizes the brand standard building design as seen throughout other Andy's Frozen Custards in the valley, including a small primary structure that is rectangular in shape and constructed of Acme brick and Acme stone. The Acme brick will be colored russet and the Acme stone will be unfinished, utilizing the block's natural color. The large canopy and architectural blade featured on the north side of the structure will feature accent colors such as bright white and rail red and will be constructed of ephes and steel with aluminum accents. And for the final pad on site is a proposed personal service use that is approximately 22 feet tall to the top of the parapet and also oriented in that north-south orientation. The retail structure utilizes the modern architecture and shares many of the architectural features that are shown on pad A. The main exterior wall material will be constructed of split-face CMU with accent walls that are to be colored colonnade gray and constructed of synthetic stucco. And responding to some study session comments last month, those accent walls or pilasters will in fact be bumped out 12 inches just to add some more visual interest along those longer facades. Regarding photometrics, there are two lighting types proposed on site. We have parking lot pole-mounted lighting as well as building-mounted lighting. The parking lot lightings will be mounted at 25 feet in height and wall-mounted lights will be proposed at 14 feet in height. As previously mentioned, staff has been working with the applicant to resolve the distancing between the oil facility roll-up doors and the neighboring residential. So we're presenting this updated condition to the Planning Commission tonight, which reads, prior to the submittal of construction drawings for pad A, the applicant shall submit revised plans that demonstrates compliance with the LDC section 5.2.11.A.3. Should the applicant submit for and receive approval for administrative relief related to the service bay / roll-up door setback adjacent to residential, the revised plan shall comply with that approval. And with that, staff's recommendation is to approve DR 23-26 baseline commercial subject to conditions in the staff report and as well to the condition presented to you all tonight. And with that, I can answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Sal, what is the distance that we're working on right now and what's being, I mean, are they adjusting the buildings?
Chair Simon, they are. So currently, the issue is the roll-up doors are roughly 163 feet away from the residential. It was a misinterpretation of code on my part. It needs to be roughly, or 200 feet away minimum, and with that potential administrative relief, it would be in that 180-foot range. So they would just shift the building all the way on the east property line, just a bit to the north.
Okay. All right, thank you, Sal.
Thank you.
Anything the applicant would like to add at this point, or?
Thank you, Chair Simon, members of the Planning Commission. Just briefly, wanted to thank staff for their work on this case. We've done maybe 5 revisions, comments, submittals, and just wanted to let this Planning Commission know that we are in full agreement with this stipulation, the one that was just presented to you tonight. We are working on that Pad A and just moving it up a little. As Sal mentioned, we can do that through administrative relief, something that was not caught in our initial rounds of reviews and comments, but we're happy to work with staff on and happy to answer any questions. But just wanted to, from the applicant's perspective, let you know we're comfortable with that modification, and we'll be working on that Pad A.
All right, thank you. All right, any questions or comments for staff or the applicant? No? None? All right. Thank you very much. And I don't have any community comment cards, so unless there's anybody here that'd like to speak, we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. We'll bring it up to the dais for discussion and/or a motion. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to point out that and this is nothing against the plan, it's more something of a note, that I noticed that Andy's Custard seems to be attracted to QTs. And it's like when Winco finds their way across the street from Costco, and I wouldn't have expected the custard gasoline mix, but I just wanted to point that out to everybody. That's interesting.
I'll have to start paying attention to that. Thank you. Anybody else?
Yes, Chair Simon. And some of this might, Tom, some of this might come hitting at you. I'm or city traffic. I had concerns about that entrance, and I'm just not willing to abdicate if that's what Mesa wants, because I think it's wrong. There's a lot of times when we would stipulate in fact, it's one of the stipulations you should put in as a city engineer real early in the process where an entrance is, because it ends up being a fixed point for civil design later. And it's real common to want to force those entrances and exits to align with other alignments, which is what I was told and it makes sense. Make it line up with the north side. On the other hand, there's also times to do it the opposite and force them to not line up. And I think this is one of the not lineups. You're talking about creating, when you make the entrances on both sides of the road line up, you create kind of an ad hoc intersection, which for flow often is desirable. But when you're talking about a major arterial like this, it's not desirable. There will be people who will try, despite the painting or the arrows on the exits to the north, and presumably on this one too, there will be people who try to shoot the straight through. In most contexts, we would probably make this a right in, right out, but the applicant probably doesn't want that. I think this almost would justify a warrant study if it's built as is, and it will never pass a warrant study without a signal. I can just look at it and tell that. So I think Mesa made a mistake, and in dictating that this is where you could offset the problem is the median or the dedicated lefts, and how are they going to align that? But that's what traffic engineers get paid the big bucks to figure out. I think we're making a mistake by leaving that. Actually, the justification that was used from staff to why we aren't I raised most of the issue and why we should look at moving that entrance around, and the justification why we can't move it around actually makes me want to move it more, not less. So my original problem was, if Andy's backs up, it has the potential to back up out onto the street, and Baseline's one of the places we really can't have that. It's going to be a big backup. It's got to back quite a ways, so it wasn't a huge concern. But the idea of having it line up with the Walmart to the north, actually to me is more problematic. So I don't think that that's okay, and I think it dictates, or it demands further negotiation with the adjacent city.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? No? Do I have a motion? If there's no other comment or discussion?
All right, Chairman.
Vice
I'd
Chair.
like to move then that we approve item DR 23-26 baseline commercial with the stipulations as stated in the report.
All right, I have a motion to approve by the Vice Chair. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Blazer. All right, go ahead and cast your vote. And that motion carries 6-1 with Commissioner Fay dissenting vote. All right, thank you. And with that, we'll move on to items 17 and 18, GP 22-11 Bellastoria and the Z 22-10 Bellastoria. And Keith, as they say save the best for last, right?
If you want to say that. Good evening, Chair Simon, members of the commission. My last case before you tonight, as you stated, is Bellastoria, a general plan and a rezone. The site, as you can see on the map in front of you, is located at the northwest corner of Power Road and Williamsfield Road. This is located in the Gateway character area, right on the right there on the edges of it, right on the edge of the town boundary in that area, and very close, right across the street from the entrance to the ASU Polytechnic campus and the Gateway Airport. There is Fincher Farms neighborhood to the west of this project site, which is an original part of the Cooley Station planned area development. You have UND Aerospace also to the west, which are dorms for students that are attending a flight school type program on the ASU East campus. To the south, you have a vacant parcel within Cooley Station that obviously is not yet developed. And then to the north, you have some existing storage facility and I believe there's some medical offices and so forth to the other businesses to the north. So the site is vacant, and there's a concurrent annexation application that's in process that will be going before the council on the same agenda as this project. The annexation will be heard first, and when it goes to council, and then obviously these cases, the general plan and the rezone after that. The request before you tonight is for a general plan amendment, or minor general plan amendment, on approximately 11.5 acres. The change will be from general commercial to residential, 14 to 25 dwelling units per acre, and I'll show you here in a minute on the general plan exhibit exactly what is going to be changed. Also, there is a proposed PAD rezone with some deviations. I'll go over those. And the rezone will go from Maricopa County Rural 43 to approximately 30 acres of Town of Gilbert multifamily medium. And also to 24 acres of single-family detached, and 16.5 acres of general commercial, and about 7.5 acres or so, these are rough numbers, for SFA zoning. So I will start on the general plan portion of it, get into more specifics. So as far as the general plan is concerned, this is the existing general plan designations that are on the property. As you can see, a majority of it is residential, 14 to 25 dwelling units per acre already today. There is the existing general commercial at the northeast corner, and then there's existing general commercial about 19.5, little over 19 acres down there along the south boundary all the way to Power Road. What is being changed is out of this overall 73-acre master plan, only about 11.5 acres is actually being changed. That general commercial piece in the northeast corner for about 4.16 acres, you can see highlighted in red, is changing from general commercial to residential, 14.5 dwelling units per acre. And then there's a few little small pieces. You'll see the little tiny piece at the corner of Power Road. That is a little sliver piece that it's .13 acres is being changed. It was never changed when the general plan designation was assigned on the site on the corner. So we're including that. Then there's this little tiny sliver piece you can see kind of north of the existing commercial. There's two little sliver pieces that are being changed. And then there's about 7-acre piece that is commercial now, and they're proposing to change it to residential, 14 to 25 dwelling units per acre. So that all equates to about 11.6 acres. And then here's the existing zoning exhibit that shows the zoning on the site is right now is county zoning. And then there's a little sliver, there's a little piece right there, the MFM, that's existing zoning. That's an existing apartment complex. That has been there forever. So that's obviously not part of the project. As far as the proposed zoning is concerned, this exhibit shows that you'll see some MFM zoning along Power Road, along that northeast corner, about 13.5 acres of MFM zoning. You'll see the commercial down on the corner is about 15.5 acres of general commercial. Another multifamily piece, a little over 15 acres. And then you have the single-family component of the development, which consists of 8.5 acres of SFA. Now, this is like gross acreage. When I told you the numbers earlier, that was net. And then you have SFD. You have about 23.5 acres of SFD. I will go ahead and show you the development plan that will kind of break down what the development's going to look like, what the design is going to look like on each one of these parcels. In the single-family portion, you can see the SFD, the smaller type of lots. And I can tell you the size of those. Those lots are about, most of them, those ones, I believe those are about 40 or so feet wide. I mean, there's a graphic that I have that shows them. They're a little bit smaller, the attached product. And then you have a little bit bigger lots. They're about 47 feet wide with floor plans that range in about 1,300 square feet to 2,500 square feet. And I'll go over the deviations that are associated with these single-family lots in just a minute. And in the middle of that, you'll see a park. I think you may have seen a graphic in your staff report that showed a little bit more of a colorful type design that kind of laid out the open spaces a little bit better. But you have a pocket park there, a big park, central open space, and then there's another one kind of towards maybe on the southern boundary, kind of towards the entrance of the commercial. The overall master plan is about 73.5 acres. So you have parcel B is another multifamily piece. So the multifamily, each one of those are about 15 acres apiece or so. So you have parcel A and parcel B and parcel C are multifamily, a total of about 30 acres, 29 acres of multifamily, and 628 units. So they're about a little over 300 units apiece, each one of those multifamily sites. The single family is about 32 total acres with 238 lots. And then on the corner, you have the approximate 16-acre commercial piece. Now, that's gross acreage. It's about 13.5 acres or so when you break it down into net acreage. So that commercial piece has about 100,000 square feet of single-family retail and commercial for smaller retail users like specialty grocery stores or grocers, shops, and other restaurant-type pads. You can see there's a lot of little pads that are surrounded, that are along the perimeter and kind of on that west side of the development, including a little Main Street type retail portion of the development that has angled parking and a lot of walkability between the pads and patios and open space kind of towards the west side. I'll show you a rendering in a minute that kind of can show those areas and those open spaces and more walkable, pedestrian-friendly areas in just a few moments. But if you'll notice, the commercial on that west half of the commercial parcel is the buildings are fairly close to the apartment buildings, which that has been designed on purpose to provide more of a mixed type of environment, a horizontal integration type of element, so that it seems more walkable and there's more integration between the two uses, so it doesn't seem so closed off. And you can see, and I'll show you in a rendering in a minute, how that kind of would look like conceptually. There is a lot of integration between the multifamily to the west with the single family. I'll also show you another graphic in a minute that will show the street of Haskell Street, how it continues from Cooley Station into the project. And it has parallel parking on either side of the road, with the buildings super close to the street, and the single-family units also close to the street to create a more pedestrian, urban-type environment. And that theme kind of continues throughout the whole master plan, with buildings closer to the streets, the multifamily close to the street with no parking in between the buildings and the roadway. And also the commercial buildings, the pad buildings are right up against the street, again, to create that more urbanized, pedestrian-friendly streetscape that you see that is prevalent in Cooley Station further to the west. We wanted to create that same development pattern on this project along the perimeters, along the street frontages, to kind of carry that same theme and that same gateway character area type feel on this project as well. And when we're talking about gateway character area, we'll get more into those details when these projects come in for each individual design review case. We'll be able to make sure that they're meeting design standards and so forth that are typical in the gateway character area. But for now, you can just see it in where the footprints are located in the general form and design of building placement. So as far as here's the site renderings I wanted to show you. So this is a view looking at the intersection of the commercial corner at Power and Williamsfield. And this building here is a retail building. I don't know exactly how large it is yet, since they haven't come in for design review. But at the corner, they have a lot of lush landscaping. It's about 20 feet wide. This graphic doesn't really do it justice, but it's about 20 feet wide. And there'll be an outdoor plaza in this area as well, that in between the two buildings, to create that pedestrian-friendly, walkable environment that I'm talking about. And you can see how the buildings are close to the street. There's sidewalk connections from buildings to street frontages. And then you can see the apartment complex to the north, and then a little bit of I believe that's going to be some type of anchor or a grocery type store, the building to the far back. Here is a view looking at the little Main Street portion of the commercial development. You can see the buildings are fairly close together, single story. They look like, some of them might look like two-story buildings. We don't have a final design, obviously, on those buildings yet. But this graphic I wanted to show you so you can see the relationship between the Main Street and the grocery store, and very walkable. There's a kind of a pedestrian plaza in between. Good integration there. And then also I wanted to really show you the integration between the apartment complex to the west and the Main Street. During the design review stage, we're going to nail this down, but we wanted to create this very pedestrian-friendly environment where there's a lot of integration, where the apartment users or residents can come right out their front entrance, go straight across the sidewalk, across a plaza type area, and go straight to a restaurant that is right next door that they can just walk to. So we think the integration between the apartment complex and the commercial is very good in this situation. And then you can also see the street presence of the commercial building along Williamsfield Road, very close to the street, entrances from the building out to the street frontage, and no parking, not a lot of parking right along Williamsfield Road or any other street frontage. So you can see that overall theme that we're trying to create here with this that the applicant is trying to create with this development. Here is the view along that you can see. This is Haskell Street, that street that you can see on the left. It'll actually join up with Haskell Street that goes into the Cooley Station north of that UND Aerospace building. But you can see the design theme that is created along Haskell. We don't have all the details. You can't see the parallel parking and things like that. It just was just a conceptual drawing to give you an idea of what it could look like with the buildings super close to the street and that environment that that pedestrian-friendly environment we're trying to create and kind of maintain and continue from Cooley Station into this project. So as far as the deviations are concerned, the applicant, when we came before you at the study session, there were approximately 19 deviations. Town staff had a lot of concern with that. And we have worked with the applicant to reduce the deviations from 19 down to 6. So the deviations now are proposed, there's 3 commercial deviations, which include the front setback along Power Road from 25 feet down to 20 feet, which we think is appropriate. That creates that urban streetscape feel like you see in other areas of Cooley Station. And the same thing with the front landscape setback down from 25 to 20 feet along Power Road, which still provides enough room to plant trees and shrubs. The arterial to arterial intersection landscape setback, if we go back a few drawings, you can see that corner is still going to have plenty of landscaping. It will be 20 feet wide, but there's also a lot of separation, distance in between that building at the corner that kind of wraps the corner, and you'll have a big, like a plaza along that corner. So you're still going to have that kind of effect of what that intersection landscape, that 50 by 250 landscape setback would have. It's just that it'll be a little bit more spread out, and you'll have a pedestrian plaza with some hardscaping and things instead of just landscaping. So it'll be a little bit more usable, which is something that we've done throughout Cooley Station. You won't see that massive swath of 50 by 250 landscaping at any intersection in the Gateway Character area or Cooley Station in this specific area. Maybe not in others. The next set of deviations is for the single family, my text came off the screen a little bit. The single family detached, so there's only 2 deviations in that zoning district. Lot area going from 3,000 to 2,800, which is pretty minor, not very significant, which we support. And then maximum lot coverage on 2 to 3 story lots. They're just exceeding it by 2%, which we didn't feel was very significant either, and we support that. The single-family attached deviations, there's only 1, so it's separation between buildings from 15 feet to 10 feet. That concludes the deviation portion. So I've kind of finished with kind of the meat of the presentation. So let's see, last thing, I was going to bring up something else. I think I already touched on it, so I'm just going to move forward. That is basically the conclusion of the main part of the presentation, but I just wanted to mention really quick that public participation for this project, there were a neighborhood meeting held over a year ago, and only 2 surrounding property owners attended. They had general feedback on potential grocery store and just general design of the project site. But just for your information, since the notices were sent, and in the last year and a half, we haven't heard from any surrounding property owners, not even 1 phone call. So ending my presentation, staff recommends that you forward a favorable recommendation for the general plan amendment for Bella Astoria to the town council. And also, we recommend that you forward a favorable recommendation for the PAD rezone to the council as well. But I also, before I open it up for questions, I just wanted to mention there is a modified condition that I wanted to bring to your attention. You'll see if I have the exhibit nearby. There is up in the top left-hand corner where Della Torre Boulevard kind of curves and then ends and goes off, and then it kind of connects to an existing intersection right there. The town staff has been working with the applicant on that geometry for that intersection, and we would kind of like to be able to finish working on that. And we have this, as we move forward to the pre-plat stage, so we have this condition that will allow the applicant a little bit of flexibility. That's kind of a conceptual design of that intersection right now. We're still kind of working on it, and that's something that we would like to finish up the design of that as we get into the pre-plat stage, which is kind of like the design review for a single-family development. So we wanted to kind of give a little bit of wiggle room for town staff and applicants so that they can meet town standards during the preliminary plat stage of the review of the project. And if you have any more questions on that, we have traffic engineering here who can answer questions on that. But we wanted to add that, kind of modify that condition to provide that flexibility for the further design of that intersection as we move forward. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I would be happy to answer them. So thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, Keith. Open it up for questions for Keith. Yeah, Commissioner Bianchi.
Thank you, Chairman. So Keith, I think you were just starting to touch upon it. So I know we're not at the plat stage yet, but we're looking at this to be public or private streets internal there?
Chair Simon, Commissioner Bianchi, inside that single-family portion, it's my understanding that those streets will all be private streets.
Okay. So so parking enforcement, everything would be handled by an HOA. And I know that'll all come at the plat time, but that's my curiosity there is when we start introducing this many lots and so forth with the circulation and then the enforcement. And then we had also talked about the open space. So they're somehow getting, especially in the SF product, they're somehow getting to 16%. I kind of look at the SF zoning and I wonder how they're getting there. Are they using that area on the west side of Delatorre as open space, or retention? Because it seems to be really packed in there.
Chair Simon, Commissioner Bianchi, they're proposing about 16, I think it says, 16.9% open space. I don't see it on this little site data table. But yes, they are using some of that area to the west of Delatorre Boulevard as kind of a little open space area. I'm not exactly sure what that area is going to be yet. Yeah. Probably some type of retention with a bunch of trees and landscaping. I'm not exactly sure yet. And then there is another retention basin there. But the main amenity is that 1.3 acre area in the middle. And then you see there's another little park kind of southeast of that, I think that basin there that someone just kindly is moving the arrow on. And then I believe there's another little open space in between some lots over there as well, that there could be some opportunities for a park space there as well. And that's something that we'll finalize during the pre-plat stage, as you have stated. But they have 16.9% open space, which is 6.9% more than is required by code, so by the design standards.
And then, so when we talk about the 50-foot local street width, is that expanded? Is that more than what a typical town street would be, or is that typical length with parking on both sides?
Chair Simon, Commissioner Bianchi, I believe that's pretty typical. We have our traffic engineer here who can answer that question probably a lot better than me. I don't have memorized what the local street widths are. I thought they were typically 40, so it could be a little bit more. Clint?
Because I'm wondering, are they counting that towards their parking totals?
So, Chair, Commissioners, so 50 is for right-of-way, that is our standard width. And the street width would be 32 feet, which allows parking on both sides. Mm-hmm. We have a new standard and stipulation. It's not really traffic related, but it's more environmental services. With the six-pack homes or cluster homes, when they bring out all the garbage cans to the street, it doesn't allow. So when they're garbage day services, there's so many garbage cans, there's no parking. So it's in our standard, and we iterated in the zoning ordinance as well that will have to be signed, no parking. And going forward, that would be even though trash day is just one day, we'd restrict it 7 days a week, just because of the confusion.
Yeah.
Because we are trying to implement it in other places where we're just doing it because it's existing, we're doing it just once a day, and it's causing confusion, so.
But the town can't enforce that if it's HOA controlled, is that correct?
Well, this is gonna be right away here.
Pardon me?
So these is gonna be right away in here.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to get too far in the weeds. It was more of a plat
So
discussion,
the 50
just curious.
feet, they're showing right away here, so the 50 feet's the right of way. So that's gonna be town right away there.
Okay.
In this subdivision. But I know Haskell is a private street.
So Chair Simon, Commissioner Bianchi, I guess I was wrong, then I misspoke earlier, I apologize. I guess the streets will be public right-of-way instead of private. But Haskell for sure is private, correct, Clint?
Yes.
Okay. So, correction.
Okay, thank you.
Questions for Keith at this point? Keith, just a real quick question of clarification. This has a planned area development, so we're, in essence, locking them into where these buildings are being platted at this point, even though we're not considering that.
Chair Simon, that's correct. We'll require that when they come forward for their design review cases and for plating, that the design be in substantial conformance with this development plan. So in essence, yes, to a certain extent, we are locking them in. And if they want to make major changes, they'll have to come back through the process and do a PAD amendment, come back through you and the council. But their design will have to be, placement of buildings, lots, and so forth, will have to be in substantial conformance with the development plan.
Okay. And then, do we know with regards to integration of the existing apartment complex that is there, is there any integration with regards to that, or are they going to wall that off and pretend like it doesn't exist?
Chair Simon, there is, my understanding is there will be a perimeter wall. There actually, I believe there is today, if I'm not mistaken, around that apartment complex, and the applicant doesn't propose to change that situation by providing any openings or any further integration. It'll just be walled off.
Okay.
Is my understanding.
I think I have another question. Actually, I've got a couple questions. First one with regards to the home plat that's here. Obviously, this is just a conceptual design. Do we know if these are going to be for sale or for lease product? Do we have any idea at this point?
Chair Simon, I don't know the answer to that question. I can defer
Maybe
that
that's
to.
something the applicant can answer when it comes up.
Yes, that's correct.
And then with regards to the notice being posted a year and a half ago, do we need to repost that, or do we need to have a new? I mean, is there anything that needs to happen because it's been so long?
Chair Simon, can you repeat that? Sorry.
So with regards to, I think you said it was January of '22 that there was a post that went out, or that we had a community meeting or a post that went out. I saw that someplace in your presentation. Do we need to bring that up to more recent?
Chair Simon, members of the commission, that was just a neighborhood meeting that they were required to have, and they met the requirement to hold a neighborhood meeting.
So we don't need to do another one?
No, we don't have to do another one, but the applicant has sent out notices to all surrounding property owners within the required distances, and also posted the signs on the site. But no, they're not required to have a second neighborhood meeting.
Okay.
And due to the fact that only 2 people showed up to the meeting, we didn't feel that it was necessary to require them to have another one.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions for Keith? No? All right, we'll go ahead and ask the applicant if you'd like to come up and give a presentation, or if you want to wait. I don't have any community comment cards, so I don't think anybody's going to say anything, so I'll leave it up to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I can get the tool to move.
And Mr. Pugh, if you could hit the little red button. It's not a red button, but turn on your mic there.
Is that any better? Good, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Pleasure to be with you this evening on behalf of the property owner, represented this evening by Francesca Mascarello, who is the managing partner of the LLC that owns this property. Just a very brief history. It all began in 1966 when Mary and Cosmo DeBella purchased and developed Cosmo's Italian Restaurant right on the corner of Power and Williams Field. It was a mainstay for all of us in the valley at the time. I hate to think of how much pizza has been sold out of there. So from that beginning, Cosmo DiBella assembled the land that you see here tonight in this plan. I call it 80 acres. It's 78 and change. It was a major undertaking, and here we are now with his granddaughter and grandson, who are the managers of the entity now that will run this property and be the lead party in the development of it. So the question tonight is, here we are with a general plan and a gateway character area that was overlaid on this property more than 2 decades ago. It'd be fun to say it was at the turn of the century, right, when this all happened. So in this acreage, 50-plus acres of this 80-acre site, 55, 56, has been designated for MFM development for all these years. Multifamily, medium-high, 14 to 20-some units per acre. So I just want you to know, as we just briefly get started here tonight, and we're not going to take much of your time, the key thing that I'd like you to think about for a minute, if we developed this acreage tonight, as it is in today's general plan, we could bring forward 1,456 residential dwelling units. That would fit within the current general plan designation. Instead, we've modified the plan and worked extensively with the staff. Thanks to the staff. It's been a long process. They've been very patient with us to incorporate the gateway character areas. But as a result of that, we then took the northwest portion of this property, and I'll show you that in a minute, and made it single family, SFA and SFD. So that portion of the property is about 7 units to the acre. The other 2 corners that are multifamily are higher, of course. So our challenge was, how do we get to that 14 units per acre at the bare minimum lowest density possible? And that's why we're here tonight with 862 units. We are roughly 600 dwelling units less tonight in this plan than could be developed under today's current general plan. So with that in mind, let's take another quick look, and we're right at 14.3, 14.4 units per acre, so very, very low end. The other thing that might be on some of your minds is we've read the staff report, we agree with the stipulations, and we agree with this final stipulation that was added this evening. We need to work on that intersection, and we will work with the staff on that. Some of you, as you looked and listened to Mr. Newman's presentation, which, by the way, thanks again to him and all the staff for what they've worked on this case, you might be asking yourself, well, what about details like fire lanes, trash collection, parking, traffic? So just so you know, all of those issues, we have talked with, met with, and consulted with every possible department within the town to design those areas so they'll be appropriately connected and done right. And ultimately, at the preliminary plat stage, Commissioners, you will have a chance to see all of those details because they're hard to see now in a project this size. So those are just, some ideas to start moving forward on. Let's just gently clarify neighborhood meeting and community outreach. Mr. Chairman, you raised that question. And so we have had 2 neighborhood meetings. The first neighborhood meeting was admittedly some time ago, right? It was in January of 2022. 2 neighbors attended. We doubled the notification area. So we went out of our way on this case to notify more people than would normally be necessary. Then, as this case worked its way through the process of staff review, we got closer and closer to the prospect of tonight, a public hearing. We thought to ourselves, let's reach out again. So we conducted a second neighborhood meeting, and that was in March, the end of March, so, not too long ago. And at that meeting, we had 4 individuals attend, and they were all positive about the project. And again, we doubled the notice area for that meeting. So please consider that as you think about the outreach and what we've done here in this case. Mr. Newman covered the deviations. We've gone from 19 to 6, and frankly, the reason there's single-family deviations was to try to get a few more lots in there so we could get our density to 14 on the overall project. Otherwise, we wouldn't meet the general plan category. You gotta be 14 to 20-something. So that's a partial reason for some of those deviations. The few landscape deviations that occur in the commercial part of the project, why does that happen? Well, it's real simple. You have the gateway character area that wants to move the buildings to the street frontage, right? The commercial buildings, and we've done that. But you have the standard town code provisions that don't anticipate that. So for that reason, we have a few landscape deviations on the commercial side. And again, Mr. Newman mentioned those to you and identified that for you. So that's the reason for the why of that. We have all the open space required, and as we've talked about, we are as low as you can get on density on this project. If it went any lower, you'd have to amend the general plan and create all new residential categories, okay? Okay, we agree with all the steps in the recommendation. We've talked about the DeBella family. Here we have the plan. Mr. Newman highlighted all this. Keep in mind the land on the south side of Williamsfield Road there, while it is vacant, it is planned for and designated for general office and shopping center. And so this gives you the context that Mr. Newman went through. He went through our requests for the minor general plan amendment and the zoning. So here's really what's happening, and Mr. Newman indicated this. So this is the general plan as it exists today. So if you look in the upper right-hand corner where it says GC 14.58, that's a little leftover general commercial parcel that's only 200 feet wide, 200 feet of frontage on Power with southbound traffic coming very fast and 900 feet of length. So it's really not suitable for general commercial development, and it fits nicely into the MFM multifamily category. So that's one amendment that we're talking about. And I'll click on now, and it'll show you what happens to the R14 to 25. You'll see there, we tighten that up just a little bit. We bring that to 32 acres in that upper left-hand corner. That's the northwest corner of the project. That will be the single-family elements. Why? Because it adjoins single-family on the west side of what we call Somerton, but is now known as De La Torre. And we thought those would be compatible there. Now, what happens down on Williams Field to the commercial? You'll notice that that's been changed a bit, so we have 22 acres of GC there. Why is that line between the GC and the multifamily on parcel B? There's a real good reason. If you remember the perspective that Mr. Newman showed you, there's a traffic signal at that very point where the GC and the R14 to 25 meet on Williamsfield Road. That's the logical place to put the boundary between the multifamily and the commercial, because then we can enter there and then go to the right or east into the commercial and left into the multifamily, rather than separating those projects with a major traffic intersection. The other question someone raised a minute ago, I think it's highlighted here very well. If you look at parcel C in the upper left-hand corner, that's kind of the irregular shaped piece. Why? Because it has to gerrymander itself around the existing multifamily parcel that's been there on Power Road for some years. And the answer to the question is yes, we do intend to have a wall there and separate this project and its design elements from that particular project. So this is the summary. This shows you the why of the general plan amendment. It's more suitable, it's more compatible, and frankly, the amount of commercial is just right. It's in more of a square shape, not quite so rectangular, and we believe it can be marketed, built, developed, and it can work at that size. Much bigger, we think it would be a problem. Here's the zoning case, and this is really clear to show how the zoning blends with what's going on in the neighborhood. So if you look at the left-hand side of the screen, that's the existing zoning on the property. It's all agricultural in use, generally speaking, and has county zoning on it. So look to the right now, and you'll see the area highlighted in black. Look at the SFD and SFA, please, in the upper left-hand corner of the site. That blends perfectly with the single-family D that's to the west of it, or to the left as you look at it. The multifamily M on Williamsfield Road continues the multifamily M that's along Williamsfield Road and is consistent with what's been in place since the year 2000. And the multifamily M up in the upper right-hand corner, same thing there. That's been designated for multifamily all these years, except for that little narrow piece that I explained to you about just a minute ago that frankly, pretty much undevelopable for commercial purposes. So those are the zoning requests that follow along and dovetail with the general plan amendment. So the site's also subject to the vertical development overlay district. That's why the multifamily buildings are 4-story in height, because this area was anticipated to have that. And when you see the site plan here, notice the red arrows on the lower left-hand corner. Why are they there? That's the 200-foot separation requirement from any property that has zoning that is single-family. And so because the property on that southwest corner of Williamsfield and Somerton, as we call it now today, that's all single-family. So you've got to go from the middle of the road and go 200 feet to comply with the vertical overlay district. That's why that building is designed the way it is, and it's on an angle there. It's pushed out to the street as far as it can be and still comply with the requirements. Same thing on the piece up on Haskell. That's why it's like that. These are just some examples of the nature of homes in the single-family area that could be built. And then the commercial development, you've seen these. Here's that intersection and lighted signalization that you see on the lower left-hand area. That demarcates the area between the multifamily and the commercial. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, you've been very patient through all this. Be happy to answer questions. We believe we're bringing a case to you tonight that combines the gateway character area with the general plan, reduces the density as much as possible without changing the general plan categories, and has now been integrated and designed according to the gateway character area. So we agree with the staff's recommendation. We urge your recommendation for approval, and hopefully we've answered your questions about deviations and other things, but whatever questions you might have, Mr. Chairman, we'd be happy to take them.
All right, thank you. Questions or comments for the applicant? Nobody? Nobody? Yeah, Commissioner Mudd.
I'd be remiss not to at least comment when one of my favorite orators, Mr. Ralph Pugh, comes up and speaks. I just wanted to say that he has a way of making me feel as though we're getting one hell of a deal with this. So thank you for that. I actually I think this is a good project, and I think the corner desperately needs it to be completed, and I think they've done a good job, and staff has beaten them thoroughly into submission, I believe. So I think it looks pretty good. Well done.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? No? All right.
Okay.
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Commissioner Bianchi.
So, Mr. Puke, so can you confirm what we had asked Keith on that? The area to De La Torre, is that what you're considering open space? Because frankly, I kind of look at this and I get a little claustrophobic when I look at the SF product. And I want to be very careful here that we're not creating more problems than we're solving. Because what I heard tonight is if we're locking in design to this site plan, that gives me pause, because the last thing I want to do is see this as a preliminary plat and we're trying to negotiate this once a preliminary plat and zoning entitlements have been given.
Yep. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bianchi, that's a very good question. And well, we're going to call it De La Torre for the moment, okay? Going north from Haskell has a bend in it like that for the reason that we thought we needed to line up the street with the street north of it at as close to a 90-degree and a 180 straight line, right? That's what we were planning. That's why there's that little area there that does serve as both open space and retention. Just recently, within the last day or so, it has come to our attention that the transportation department is not completely satisfied with how those two roads connect. And consequently, we've asked for an engineer's variance because this is a problem we did not create. We're trying to connect to roads that already exist in existing neighborhoods in approved plans. So the status of tonight is that request for an engineer's variance to allow this road to connect the way it does has been denied. Consequently, as Mr. Newman mentioned, we're going to abide by that last stipulation he made and work with the staff to see if there's some design solution to that location. And based on the outcome of that, we will know better how this road will align. So yes, this is a preliminary development plan. The plat will look very similar, substantially conform to this, but that far western end, that northwest corner, that's still under design as of today.
Yeah. I'm not sure how you made the densities work, but you somehow did. Because even I was looking at this going, how can that only be 7 dwelling units per acre? And how can that only be 14? Because my worry is when we're putting these 234 lots on there, and then we're getting, reduced lot sizes and reduced side yards and reduced setbacks and reduced perimeter landscape areas and increased lot coverage. I'm just kind of like, okay, well, we could get a little more open space so it's not that closed in. But that's what I worry about is it does not sound like we have much room to play with in the density aspect. You could go to 5 to 8 dwelling units per unit, because I think that's under the SF D and A, because I think the neighborhood just to the northwest has that, but that's where I'm having a hard time on the zoning side of that for me personally.
So, Mr. Chairman, can I answer that? So, Mr. Bianchi and members of the commission, the issue here is to stay within the gateway character area, which wants properly designed density. And consequently, neither we nor the staff felt that it would be appropriate to request an amendment to the existing residential component. We just tried to design a plan that would get the very lowest density possible and comply. So that's why you see this single-family area at 7 units to the acre. And frankly, it's very consistent with Fincher Farms and the other project, forget the name of it, just immediately to the west. They all are right in that same ballpark. So, and the deviations, 200 square feet less in a lot size helped us pick up a few lots that helped the density. We were in a huge density, open space, landscape calculation mess for a while until we got that figured out.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more apt to give you more density on the multifamily if I can get a better product in here, but that's not before us tonight.
Yeah.
But that's my curiosity. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bianchi.
All right, thank you. Anybody else? No? Mr. Pugh, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll go ahead and, I don't have any public comment cards, so we'll go ahead and close the public hearing on this and bring it up to the dais for discussion and/or a motion. Anybody like to start? I'll just throw out that I actually agree with Commissioner Bianchi on this, that the density, and I'm, in my head, I guess maybe the conversation is, which side do we err on, right? Do we err on more open space and push that density to where it's like, okay, yeah, maybe we're a little bit low, but we've got the open space, or do we go the other direction? So that would be my concern on this. Looking at the lot sizes is concerning. That's not before us tonight. I mean, we'll look at that down the road. But I would concur with Commissioner Bianchi that that's where my struggle is with this. Otherwise, I think the plan looks great. I think the site plan that's been presented before us, if we can substantially conform to that, I would be all for it, and I think it's a needed development in this area, so. Any other comments?
Jan, maybe this is my misunderstanding. I usually have aren't you allowed to go lower in density within a zone and still be compliant with the
I
zoning?
thought so. Maybe we should go to staff on that. I thought we could go lower on the density, or are we stuck?
So do you have to rezone to have less density?
Anybody? Staff doesn't want to answer. Mr. Pugh, do you know the answer to that? Hit your button. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I'll take a stab at that. It's not the zoning that is the issue, it's the general plan category. So the general plan category is residential 14, I believe, to 25. So we were working on this project and hovering around 13 units to the acre. And we needed to get it up a little bit to get to 14, because in the zoning world, I believe you're right. If you have acre lots, or you have R16, you could build an acre lot size if you wanted to, in theory. But not, the general plan doesn't work that way. That's my understanding.
I think it's the same question. Doesn't the general plan work the same way? You can do lower density?
Chair Simon, Commissioner Fay. I mean, that's why we designate the densities as they are, so that developers will stay within those ranges. If we wanted a developer to go to lower density, if they had that ability, then you might as well, you general plan it to a lower density.
So you would have to do a general plan amendment to go to lower density? I've never heard of that before.
I've never seen that, but it's just, that's the way it works. I mean, I don't know how else to answer that question, but we usually have density ranges that fit the amount of density that is in the general plan for that specific site. It was, I don't know how else to answer your question.
That's true of zoning too, though. We've got target that, I think you're allowed to go to a lower use, I don't know what it's called, there's a term for it, a higher use or a lower use, which includes, when you're in residential, that includes lower density. I don't think you're forced to pack more in because you're in that category.
That would make sense to me.
I don't know how to answer your question. Typically, we don't do that. It's,
we're looking
if Ashley
over the
wants
top.
to step in, go ahead, but.
Yeah, Chairman and Commission. So when we're rezoning a project, if a general plan category has a specific density range, one of the things that we're looking at is that the zoning that the applicant is requesting is consistent with our general plan designation. So if they're looking to rezone a property to something that's lower than our general plan, we would find it not in conformance with what our general plan anticipated. Conversely, if an applicant has zoning that already exists that's a lower density than what our general plan would anticipate or expect, the applicant can build to that existing zoning district.
If they have existing zoning, or if they want to come in and build at 14 and they're zoned at, or master plan is something higher, do they need to amend the master plan or rezone it, downzone it?
Meaning the general plan?
Either way, if I want to come in and I want to build acre lots, do I have to either rezone or amend the plan to go down to it? I've never heard that before. That's counterintuitive.
So it becomes an issue if you're talking about a rezoning application. So if somebody had SF15 and they wanted to just develop acre lots and everything met the standards of SF15, they were just choosing to subdivide larger, they're not requesting a zone change, and so therefore we wouldn't say you have to come in and amend the general plan. I might be missing the question.
No,
maybe.
that's,
Okay.
so they wouldn't have to. They can go lower density.
They can, as long as they're not requesting a zone change along with it. That's when we get into the conversation of compliance with the general plan.
Yeah, because you could still do SFA and SFD there.
Yeah.
And it could be at a close to a 14 density, or it could be to a 5 to 8. Like,
Yeah.
that's in the general plan
That-
too.
that's why some of this didn't make sense
And
to
that
me.
was my curiosity was, I just don't want to be careful, like we said, if we're locking in this site plan, that was my concern is, I don't want to have to deal with parking and all the circulatory elements in the open space once they've already got the entitlements, if they're kind of locked in there. And so that's where my kind of concern comes up. So that's why I kind of said, I don't want to have to negotiate this on the dais, but I said, I'd almost give you more multifamily units if it was a calculation, if I think we get a better SF product with more open space, something that's more activated to the community, that can generate, just more open space for the folks that are probably going to use it in there rather than just going to be hemmed in, because I imagine there'll be a lot of students and shared housing and things like that. So, but that's my concern, but I think.
I understand why a developer wants more or wants to pack more in. That makes sense, and that's why they're usually butting right up against the limit or even upzoning or whatever the expression. I'm mixing up the up and the down part, but they're because that's more product they can sell. That makes sense to me. The idea that, well, we had to do it because the city is making us do it because we had to fit into this higher category doesn't make sense to me. And if that's the case, well, let's relieve them of that responsibility. Let's let it be lower. I don't think that that's seriously what we're talking about, but this is a whole different discussion. I'm getting almost philosophical at this point.
Well, I guess to try to more pointedly ask this question, Keith, if they were to have brought this up here and it was 13 units per acre, would we be hearing it right now? And would that be considered within substantial conformity to the general plan? Like, we're asking for variances because we need to get to that. I want to make sure I understand, was it impossible for them to bring forth something that would have been 13 units per acre?
Chair Simon, Commissioner Munt, I don't believe so. I don't think we would have, I don't think we would have permitted it. We want it to match what the general plan, the crystal ball for the town, for that area, it has been approved for that site.
Okay, very good.
That really does lay it. If they'd come forward with 12 or 13, which wouldn't have required any of these variants, or almost any of these variances, or maybe none of them, staff would have prevented it?
These are very hard questions. I don't know. All I know is that we asked them to hit 14. They're within it, and there's something in the zoning code that says if you're within X number of feet, or I can't remember what it says, from property that's zoned residential, single-family residential in the gateway character area, you have to have a certain density.
Okay.
So
we really did say even not quite maybe legal, I'm not saying it's illegal, but we, staff, said you have to get to 14 or above, which is why they had to shoehorn all this in.
Essentially, that is correct. But if you take a look at it, and I don't know if this will open up a can of worms, but I don't know if I'm even going to, if this is even going to do anything, okay? But if you look at the density of this area, it's very comparable to everything else in this area to the north and to the west. There is a lot of development that this is compatible with in Fincher Farms, in Cooley, old portions of Cooley Station to the north and to the west. There's product much denser than this. There's a lot of product that's very, very similar than this. The density range of this product is actually much lower than a lot of the density that you can see further north and west. So I think they're actually fairly compliant with what's in the area in Cooley Station. That is one of the reasons why we supported it as well. I mean, if this was surrounded by single-family homes that were 6, 7, 8, 9,000 acre lots, that we may not have supported it. But since there's already this density and more to the north and west in Cooley Station that has been approved 15 to 20 years ago. And you can drive through all those neighborhoods and see all of these motor court home products and all of these types of attached and detached products. They're all over the place in this area. So we felt that what they're proposing is fairly compatible.
I don't think, Keith, that we are arguing against that. I think we are all in agreement that this product or the way it's been presented with regards to the PAD, we're in agreement with. I think where we're struggling, where at least I'm struggling, and I feel like Commissioner Bianchi and Commissioner Fay are in the same line with me on this, is that if we did 14 dwelling units per acre on the multifamily 4-story apartment complexes, great. If we needed to go to 13 dwelling units per acre on the single-family detached in order to get additional green space, I would be okay with that, and I guess where the question lies, and maybe we need to throw it back to staff, and when we get to the point of actually having this conversation of what the actual plan area development is, or when the plot comes to us and we take a look at it, the plat map, we actually get an answer that, hey, can we go to 13 units, or can we go to 12 units, and not have an issue with them needing to come back and rezone? So I don't think we're arguing against that it definitely fits in this area and that it's there. I think it's just a matter of looking at it and saying, I mean, we all know what we end up hearing. There's no place to park, we don't have driveways, the trash pickup, all of those things come up, and it becomes kind of disheveled in these areas where we have very tight density. So maybe it's a matter of we take a look at that as we go through this process, and when that plat comes back to us and we really look at it deep, can we make a variance for the applicant on this to drop it down? If truly it's, look, we're just squeezing this in to get us to 14. Okay, well, let's go 13 or 12, whatever that is, if we can.
Chair, I'd be more than happy to look into that as we're moving forward. And I hope that this doesn't muddy the waters, but I'd rather maybe clarifies the point. But the direction that staff is applying is a statutory direction. So according to statute, a rezoning ordinance conforms with the land use element of the general plan if it proposes land uses, densities, or intensities within the range of identified densities, intensities, and identified uses of the land use element of the general plan. So what we're doing here is we're honoring what was voted upon by the voters of Gilbert, in identifying that these are the densities that we're identifying as appropriate for this area. But more than happy to kind of delve into that. This is my 5-minute legal research
Yeah, I'd love to
project,
see that. I mean, I definitely can understand and appreciate that when we get to the upper end of it, but when we look at the lower end, and it's really, and I don't know if this is the right way to say it, but giving a better quality of life with regards to that specific area because we're going lower density, I would just like to know what that looks like when we get there. Because I don't know, and obviously I think none of us really know at this point. So, if that's fair.
Chair Simon, real
Keith,
quick.
yes.
I just wanted to note that I know you're concerned with the amount of open space that they're proposing, and that you want it to feel more open and not as dense. But if you look at it, they're providing 16.9% open space, which is way more than the 10% that is required for a single-family development of this lot sizes that they're proposing. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that they have way more open space than a lot of the developments in the surrounding area that are of this same product type. So I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you.
And just throw that out there as a note. Even though it may not look like it, it's well above what our minimum standards require.
Thank you.
But are those
Noted.
areas located where they'll actually be utilized by the residents?
Yeah.
They're just thrown in the corners to get to that 16%. Whereas you could probably have a nice amenity that doesn't break it up. Because the other thing I look at is, we've got rows of 18, 19, 20 rows of housing without any breaks. And if we've done that elsewhere in the town, great. But I mean, if you're up there of 20 without a break or anything like that, or if we have consistent, hey, yes, we've done 30-plus acres of contiguous SFA and SFD, this is pretty common, then I'm okay with that. But that seems like a lot for SFA, SFD to be contiguous like that, with that many homes placed without a break. That's my curiosity. That's my concern.
Yeah.
Commissioner Davis?
Thank you, Chair. I think part of it is that the open space areas are kind of spread out. A larger central one, maybe. I feel like the northeast corner is kind of where it's lacking. But I do think the people down at the south will utilize parcel B a little bit for some of that open space. My question is, if you're realigning De La Torre, is it possible we could lose some of that 16.9% as in that change? Do you know the answer to that?
Chair Simon, Commissioner Davis, we don't know. We don't know yet exactly what the intersection configuration, once it's redesigned, is going to look like. We won't know that until we get to the preliminary plat stage. There's always a chance, I guess you could lose some of it. But even that open space, we don't know what it's going to look like yet. That colored graphic may show that it's just a retention basin, but during the preliminary plat stage, we could easily program some type of open space amenity in there as well. That's usable, that's not just a passive area. So those details are going to be hammered out during the preliminary plat stage, and those are just unknowns at this time.
I don't know that that's really true. I mean, we're talking about the alignment of Delatorre, right?
Yes.
So Delatorre may, based on traffic engineering, getting into things and their preferences and stuff, it may realign. But actually, one of my concerns, getting to, I think, the same thing, the open space is tucked into some corners, and the most problematic is that orphan parcel, particularly, not parcel, but that piece on the far west side. And particularly because you said it might become, you kind of had, there's some, as long as it stays open space, okay. If it becomes something less open, and, oh, it's 16 anyway, we can consume half of it and have 12 and we're fine. So one, I was going to be saying before that I think it needs to make sure it's stipulated and it's included in a hard manner as open space. But realistically, if Delatorre moves around, that actually probably helps. That pushes more of the open space onto the west side, or the east side of, the road's not going to get wider, it's just going to move around. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So whether the open space now is on the east side of the road or the west side of the road, it's still the same number of square feet. The traffic engineering has something to solve. You got work to do. Well, I guess you both have work to negotiate, but I assume that it's, what we're talking about is not something like Delatorre moving, way over, and I assume we're basically talking about whether it goes straight north-south, whether it does the skew that it's on, something in the middle. If that's the case, it really doesn't change the square footage, it's just which side of the road it's on. Am I mistaken on that?
Chair Simon, Commissioner Faig, that could be right, that could be true. We just don't know what that design's going to look like. We honestly don't know if the design of that intersection is going to be more significant or substantial, if adjacent roadways are going to be realigned, things like that. We just don't know yet. We don't know all those details, but it could fluctuate. It could go down. I wouldn't imagine it would go up.
Okay,
But depending on the design that the engineers and their team, our engineers and their engineers come up with, it could fluctuate a little bit. It's just an unknown right now. We don't know.
Well, we could agree, if it's going to move in such a way that it significantly impacts the houses and the density, it'll probably have to come back, won't it?
Not necessarily. It just depends. It depends on the lot count. It depends, and if it does decrease the amount of open space significantly, then we might deem it to not be in substantial conformance with what you're looking at today and what the council is going to consider for approval. So we just don't know yet. It could come back. Something we'll have to take as it comes and as the design is being fleshed out. But we believe that condition is flexible, where we can have some wiggle room to be able to design something that will meet town standards and that will work for both parties. It's like I said, we can hammer those details out at the pre-plat. We just don't know all those details and information, so.
Well, he's tap dancing hard.
All right. Commissioner Gage.
So Keith, if this road moves and it impacts the number of homes and it drops down below the 14 units to the acre required by the general plan, are they going to be forced to come back for a general plan amendment?
Chair Simon, Commissioner Gage, I would say yes.
So that seems like a big deal to not know on their end at this point, right? Was there no work done initially to kind of figure out the location of that road? I know like the angles have to kind of line up and the one coming down is crooked. So I'm trying to understand how much it's going to move and then what are going to be the snowball effects of that shift in the road. So they can have some sort of understanding what their future path is. No one likes to be surprised with a general plan amendment when they're this far in the process.
Chair Simon, Commissioner Gage, I understand, but as I've said, it's all very fluid. It's a conceptual design of that intersection. We don't know what the final design is going to be. So we don't know if that's going to change the impact lots at this point. Hopefully, we can come up with a design that won't impact the lots, and so they can keep that same density. And that's going to be our goal, to keep it in substantial conformance. Well, the last thing we want is to require the developer to come back through another general plan amendment. So we're going to work hard to make sure that it keeps the same density.
I just kind of throw this out there. This has been a really good conversation. I feel like maybe we are a little bit ahead of ourselves with regards to getting into the weeds on the plat, and the overall design. Kind of thinking this through, we're looking at general plan amendment, and we're looking for the zoning with regards to the area. And I think, again, I think this conversation has been great, and I think it's flushed out some things that definitely need to be looked into and have conversations with the applicant, as well as brought back to us with regards to this is how we would move forward, because not only would it be for this particular project, but projects going forward as we start looking at very limited space left in Gilbert. So with that, I want to throw it out. Anybody else have any discussion with regards to the general plan or the zoning amendment with the PAD on this? Or do we have a motion? Actually, I should probably close the public hearing and reopen the public hearing, close the public hearing, because we did go back to Keith and whatnot, so we kind of went out of line there, but.
No, Chairman, so I'm fine with the general plan request, and largely I'm fine with the rezoning request. It just comes back to the SF product and with the deviations, and if we don't grant the deviations, what does this project look like? If you did it under straight SFA and SFD zoning, can they still pull it off? Because my worry is, once we get to pre-plat, and once we've locked in the densities and the site plan, we may not have much flexibility when it comes to the plat. We may just be as presented. So that's my main concern. But as far as the general plan request, I get it. I'm fine with keeping the density at 14 to, 23 or 25? And largely with the zoning, it just comes down to that SF A and D. And as a commissioner, we okay granting the deviations so in essence, we meet that density? Because I would rather get a good product and a good layout for that SF product. I don't think this is what I'd prefer. But that's just kind of where I'm at. I don't know if that's enough to vote against it, but those are my concerns. Like I said, this is something to consider as we move forward with this. So I'm just curious if other folks have considered those same concerns, or if not, I understand too.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, that kind of frames my uncomfortableness. Actually, twice now, Commissioner Bianchi's done. Partly it's the kind of claustrophobic feel, and partly it's there's a fair amount up in the air still on this that I feel like we're tying our hands but leaving a lot up in the air at the same time. I don't know that it's wrong per se, although our discussion with Keith about the road actually made me less comfortable, not more comfortable. But I don't know that it's wrong. It's just there's a fair amount up in the air right now.
Chairman, and
Yeah, Vice Chair.
I would just add that, I do understand the concerns, and I have some of them myself, but I feel like we're getting a bit into hyperbole of what if. We could go so far as to, what if a meteor hits it and then they can't develop it, So, but without going that far, the way I look at it is, I believe the concerns that I would have are alleviated by the fact that the staff's interpretation and the legal statute of the interpretation that we look at is what's being adhered to here. Do I particularly like 20 little houses stacked in a row in the variances? No. Do other people that buy these things, based upon purchase histories? Yeah, I guess they do. So I just wanted to voice that opinion that along with these concerns, I think that there's just some of it that if it's unknown, there's really nothing we can say. And if it ends up being an unfortunate situation where a new application is needed, then that there's really nothing we could do as a board today to alter that based upon what's actually in front of us.
Thank you. Commissioner Fay.
Maybe this is kind of obvious based on what we're just, none of this really, for me, none of my uncomfortable applies to parcel B, C, and D. B, C, and D are fine. It's just A that is giving me the willies.
I would agree with that. I'm assuming we need, if there's no more discussion, we need a separate motion on each one of these. Is that correct? If there's no more discussion, I'll entertain motion. Otherwise, we'll continue discussing.
Well, I was hoping that Commissioner Blazer was going to do it on his farewell tour here, but instead I shall be the one to do it. I move to approve GP 22-11 Bellastoria.
All right, we have a motion to approve item 17 by the vice chair. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
A second by Commissioner Blazer. Please cast your vote. All right, that vote carries 7-0. I'll entertain a motion on the Z 22-10.
Chairman, I would like to move to approve Z 22-10 Bellastoria.
I have a motion to approve by the vice chair. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Commissioner Blazer seconds. Please cast your vote.
Chairman, can you please note that it's with the modified condition?
Yes, vice chair, would you like to modify?
Yeah, I apologize. I thought that was implied, but I'd like to amend my motion to approve Z 22-10 Bellastoria with the modified condition of the dilatory alignment and geometry as shown on the development plan for the project as conceptual modifications to the development plan may be required based on required revisions to Dilatory Boulevard and shall be addressed during preliminary plat review for the project.
Can't even stay it straight. I have a motion to approve by the vice chair.
I'll second it.
Second by Commissioner Blazen. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries 7-0. Thank you all. Yep, thank you. We'll look forward to speaking again on that one. Yes. All right. With that, we're going to move on to administrative items. Administrative items are for the commission discussion and action. It is to the discretion of the majority of the commission regarding public input requests and any administrative items. Persons wishing to speak administrative items should complete a public comment form indicating item number on which you wish to address. Commission may or may not accept public comment. I don't know that we have any public comment, but Councilman Anderson, can we go to you on this at this time for your presentation?
Should we invite the hundreds of citizens waiting in the, okay.
Hello, hello. I'm going to hand these to you so you can give them to them. I just want to express our appreciation. You know, our representative government relies heavily on volunteer involvement, and through commissions like this and through other boards, that's what really makes it work. And you have been an example of that, volunteering your time and your expertise to help make Gilbert a better place to live, and we really appreciate that. And on behalf of the mayor and the council, we want to congratulate you for the efforts you've made and for what you've done for our community and make us feel like a big family. So appreciate it. Thank you. And we've got some things for you that we'd like to present. We've got a plaque for you, and I think there's a coin, a Gilbert coin that's in that little box. Yeah. Yeah, the box is nice.
Thank you.
Did you want to say anything to our vast audience?
Thank you. No, I love Gilbert, and it's been a pleasure serving the people and contributing. So, thank you.
Thank you. We'll miss your recusals. Yeah, that would be good for a picture.
There are Kleenex in the back for anyone else who's emotional.
All right, well, I would just like to add, Commissioner Blazer, thank you very much for your time and the opportunity to serve with you. We appreciate it. Been nice getting to know you, and we wish you all the best, and we'll see you around town, I'm sure, and probably presenting a case to us at some point.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, so with that, we have, in your packet was the 2024 Planning Commission meeting calendar, and I would need a motion to approve that unless there's any discussion or anybody needs any of those dates moved because you are so very important.
I'm so very important that they'd move them after, even if I approve it. So I'd like to move to approve the 2024 Planning Commission meetings as shown in the
All right.
attached packet.
I have a motion to approve by the vice chair. Do I have a second?
Is it appropriate that I'll second it?
You
I'll
haven't
second
resigned
it.
yet. The
Gladly.
meeting's not over. We have a second by Commissioner Blazer. Please cast your vote. And that motion carries 7-0. And then we've got the meeting minutes from the July 12th and August 2nd meeting. Eva, I think I only saw the August minutes in there. Did I miss that?
I think they're both in there. I've got both.
Are they both in there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if
I
there's-
skipped past the first.
If there's
thing,
no
yeah.
discussion, I
Yeah.
would move for approval as presented.
All right, I've got a motion for approval.
I'd like to second that.
I've got a second by Commissioner Munt. Please cast your vote.
And Chairman, you were correct, there was only one hard copy
For
from the
sign,
second.
okay.
So we'll bring you the other hard copy to sign next time.
Thank you. And the vote, you reveal. I mean, I would assume it passes at this point, but, and it carries 7-0. That was, yeah. All right, with that, we move on to executive session. We do not have executive session tonight. Report from the chairman or members of the commission. Anybody have anything they'd like to say? Commissioner, Vice Chair Munt.
Thank you. I just want to take a moment. You know, I don't like to speak that much, but I do want to take an extra moment to thank Commissioner Blazer. I think that those of us who have served up into these types of boards in the capacity know that there's times when we are merely a pariah, and at least developers, when they catch the heat, they get paid. We do it because we feel a civic duty, and I think that that's something that is highly commendable, no matter where, why, or how long you've done it. And so I just want to voice on my own opinion. Thank you for being here, and you've been a lot of fun, even when I bust your chops for being recused all the time. But you're a good dude. Thanks, ma'am.
Thank you.
All right, thanks. Anybody else? I have one question, and maybe this is for future agenda to discuss, but with regards to Phoenix passing the ability to build casitas and secondary homes in their backyards, I know that there's been some discussion around that, and maybe we could, from a town perspective, have conversation on where that is with our discussion with staff, and I don't know how we do that, but maybe that's something we could.
Would you like us to place that on a future work session agenda?
I think it would be worthwhile to have that conversation, just to know where staff is on it and what the thought process is going forward.
We will do that. Thank you, Chair.
Yep. And then Eva, to you.
Thank you. I guess I have to start by thanking Commissioner Blazer and all of you for volunteering. It's very appreciative, and staff does enjoy working with all the commission. I'd also like to note that Noah Mund, sorry, Noah's still here. Noah Schumerth has left. He has moved to Chicago to accompany his fiance, who's going to law school at University of Chicago. So we'll be looking for another planner shortly. Noah did fly back to Arizona to join us at the State Planning Conference last week. He and Samantha Novotny did a wonderful session on our new mixed-use ordinance. Was very well attended and actually ran over because people were so interested. They asked many questions. And the interest was perhaps heightened because right before that session at the awards luncheon, the mixed-use ordinance won the award for Best Ordinance, Regulation, Legislation, or Adopted Policy in the state. And that was done in-house and spearheaded by Samantha and Noah, and everybody here touched it in some way, so thank you for that.
I am really I've got some spies. I knew that we were going to win that award, and I was looking forward to busting Noah's chops pretty hard, and now I don't think it's because of his fiance. I think it's because he knew we were going to give him a hard time, and he probably got wind of it somehow, and he rather quit the city than face us.
You can
Maybe you can
give
get his
all that to
contact
Samantha.
information. Reach out through LinkedIn.
That is a real bummer. I'm sorry we're losing him or lost him, or that's too bad. I don't feel nearly as strongly about the rest of you.
We'll make sure that gets to Noah. That we'll send him the minutes from this meeting.
There you go.
He'll hear all that. And then I guess I also have to give kudos to our transportation planning team, as at that same luncheon, the Gilbert Transportation Master Plan won the award for the best master plan project study or transportation plan in the state. So we're very proud of both of those awards, and I think we won more awards than any other town or city in the state this year from APA.
That's great. Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you very much. The next meeting is sometime in the future. October 4th. I didn't have my glasses on, and then I couldn't find it. So. Right, exactly. All right. Well, with that, we will adjourn, and we will see you all in October.